Why are you running for mayor?
Yeah, that's a great question. My wife asks me that every day when I wake up. Why? But it's not
Why are
so
we
nice.
doing this?
Why are you doing
Yeah.
this?
Oh,
It's a
man.
lot of work. I'm
Yeah.
not going to lie. For the last 3 or 4 months, it's been a daily grind of all the different things you have to do to win a race. But, I've served my whole life. I've served my country and my community my entire life. And as I was nearing retirement from the Marine Corps, I started thinking about what's next in my life.
Yeah.
I've had some success on the business side, and that certainly has been fulfilling. But I was starting to fill this void of, hey, there's something else here that I can do and give back to my community on.
Yeah.
I'd been on city council. I'm in my third first term on city council. So I thought about serving through politics. And, mayor just kind of came to me as a natural next step. I've managed in the military, I've managed large groups, large assets, large budgets. I've ran small businesses, so I have a bit of a business acumen that comes with that. And,
Sure.
and I just felt like those skill sets really lined up well to being a mayor, one, but two, I look at the landscape of Westfield, and although I certainly don't want to criticize our current mayor, 16 years taking it from a small town to a rapidly growing city, that there's a lot of challenges, and it's easy to Monday morning quarterback that.
Yeah.
But I saw some gaps. I saw some things that needed to be adjusted on that I felt my strengths lined up well for, and so that's what really got me motivated to put myself out there and run.
Yeah, that's awesome. What's been for you maybe the most controversial topic for you, like as you've been running and leading up to this point to run for mayor?
I don't know if there's been a controversial topic, but certainly something that's been very energized. I get asked everywhere I go is, what's your vision for the city moving forward? As you know from living here or working here in Westfield, we've seen growth, and I don't think everybody agrees with how we have grown. We have pockets in our city where nothing's really happening, like the downtown area. We have pockets where a lot of things are happening, like State Road 32, and people don't like how that's developing. So every door I knock on, if I get somebody live and they want to talk, they always ask, what is the city going to look like 10, 20 years from now?
That's a good question.
Yeah. And I think that's where I'm different from my opponents is I have a very clear vision of what that looks like. And I think you have to. If you don't, we're going to end up looking back on this 20 years from now and saying, wow, we had the opportunity to really build something special, and it kind of got away from us.
Well, at a certain point, I feel like you can't go backwards, right?
You can't.
Like
That's
if you build the wrong way, then you're going to look back and go, oh, crap, well, we can't move these neighborhoods now.
That's
or
right.
We can't move these buildings now. Now we're kind of stuck with what we've done. So that's got to be a real stressor for
it is.
whoever
And
is mayor.
and if you look at some of our sister cities here in central Indiana, whether it be Zionsville or Fishers, where they got too far down the path before they really started to think about the future. You could build in infrastructure problems into your city that, if you do solve it, it's going to cost taxpayers millions and millions of dollars to fix.
Yeah.
So you got to get it right, and that's been something I've been thinking a lot about, really for the past several years as I've contemplated running.
Yeah. So that next 10 years, it sounds like you have a very clear idea of what that looks like, and what I think is cool is, always be planning, never have a set plan, right?
That's right.
But have a vision,
That's
right. and that's what I've tried to do in business, and so far it's worked. I feel like sometimes it's kind of just free balling and seeing what happens, but
throw it up against the wall.
Yeah, exactly.
Happens.
But what is that vision for you? If you are elected mayor, what is that vision in the first year and then 10 years from now?
I think the first year we've got to have a roadmap. We've got to rebuild that roadmap of what Westfield will look like. I certainly have a vision, but it's just not my city. I'm just the caretaker of the city. It's our 50,000 resident city. So I think the first thing you have to do is bring that vision to the community and let them chew on it. Let them weigh in and make some recommendations themselves on what they would like to see. And then from that feedback, you create that roadmap.
Okay.
And once that roadmap is created, then you can start going to the development community, to businesses out there that are interested in coming to Westfield, and you can show them that map and say, hey, you want to be here, we want to have you, but here's what we need, where we want it, and what it looks like, and here's what's an option for you.
Yeah.
And when you think about Carmel, I never wanted to live in Carmel. I came to Westfield for a reason, but it doesn't mean I can't look back at Carmel and say, wow.
They've done some things well.
They've done some amazing things, in particular around having a vision and building to it.
Mm-hmm.
If you ever sat down with Jim Brainerd and asked him, hey, what do you want here? What do you want there? He could tell you what would be on top of every blade of grass in that city. I mean, he had a vision. And, whether you like how he executed it or not, certainly there's critiques around or criticism around debt and other things. He built out a city that is really something unique and special, especially when you consider it's in the middle of flatland Indiana. But here in Westfield, we don't have that.
Yeah.
If you talk to the mayor or anybody on city council and ask them, show me the plan for downtown, there is none. And that's kind of been the problem. You plop something neat in one corner, but then that kind of controls the destiny potentially for the rest of the block.
Yeah, well, Rivet Coffee is a great example.
Rivet Coffee's, I love Rivet Coffee.
Or but no parking.
That's right, no parking, and now you've got a block that's got a lot of empty lots that are kind of, you've just taken out a corner, a very important piece of that block in development.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what you wanted all along, but I would argue it's not. I mean, I love Rivet, and I'd love to see it stay there and thrive, but I doubt that was ever the vision day one for what we wanted on that block.
Yeah, well, it was originally a residential home, wasn't it?
It was.
Yeah, I mean, there you go. It's hard to redesign residential areas as a commercial area.
That's right. So that's something that I feel like year one we've got to develop the map, and then year 2 through 4 we start moving forward and executing on that map, because like I said, we've got real challenges in our city as you think about 10, 20 years down the road, keeping up with the growth and the infrastructure and all the things that come with running a city. That's going to be incredibly challenging if we don't change the direction of some of the things that we're doing in our city.
Yeah, well, and now Westfield has a team that has beat Carmel, right? So a football team that's beat Carmel.
Yes.
So more people are going to want to be coming here,
Football, basketball. I mean, Westfield is becoming a destination for all of our sports teams. And, even my son plays lacrosse. For years Carmel dominated lacrosse. And now, I can tell you in the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade levels, we're beating them and beating them pretty solidly.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So you're seeing that change across the board.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, other than the development, well, actually, let me ask you one more question here. On the residential side of development, what's the plan there? Because I know they're set for many more neighborhoods to be built, and I think what a lot of people are getting, and maybe I'm wrong about this, but I think what a lot of people are getting tired of seeing is houses so close together. It's like you fly over this place and it looks like a cornfield of homes now, not cornfields. I guess is there any plan there to kind of spread things out a little bit more?
Well, yes and no. Right now, the plan, we have a comprehensive plan, and it was developed in 2008 by a lot of residents in the community. But the comprehensive plan was never a map. It was just kind of, hey, in this general area of the city, we want higher density homes. And as you go further west or further north, we want that density to reduce. And in this pocket, we want commercial. But it doesn't define what commercial is. It doesn't define what density is. I mean, does my backyard count as density or just the building and concrete?
Right.
There's a lot of things about that. And I've been told it was on a purpose, was to keep it very vague. But I would argue that vagueness has created a lot of the issues that we have.
Interesting.
So moving forward, yes, we have a lot more areas identified in the original comprehensive plan that calls for residential growth.
Yeah.
Now, if I'm mayor of Westfield, we're going to revisit that. And there are areas that I think are residential right now that I'd rather us not develop it that way. We need more opportunities for good commercial development in our city. We have to diversify our tax base if we're going to stay solvent long term. So there's some things I want to change in that. But when you talk about density, it depends on what demographic or what age group you talk to and how that resonates. For you and I with kids, we don't want density. I don't want my neighbors on top of me.
Right.
But you talk to our kids and you talk to kids coming out of college, they don't want yards.
Yeah.
They don't want to keep up with the yards. They like that zero lot line, high density, or being in a downtown area where it's walkable.
Right.
And it's only walkable if there's density. You start sprawling and you need cars. So I think it's important as we look at the future of Westfield that we're not just building a Westfield for my generation or your generation or retirees' generations.
Yeah.
30 years, a lot of us are going to be gone. We're not even going to be on this earth. We need Westfield to be a vibrant city for decades to come. And that means these young folks coming out of college or kids that are in the high school right now, what do they want?
Right.
And what do we need? We need to be willing to create that in our community if you want them to come back and raise their families in your hometown.
Yeah.
And that's not happening right now in Westfield. There's no place to work. And most people, I mean, you get lucky, they go to Carmel.
Yeah.
And, they're close, but they're not in Westfield. Because Carmel has done a great job of building something that young generations want to be a part of.
Well, but even that Midtown area, it's not the same as what Fishers is, right?
Yeah,
like
very
downtown
different.
Fishers is definitely a more popping, vibrant, youthful community. Midtown Carmel is getting there, especially now that there's more jobs downtown and that Midtown, those apartment developments and all that. That has definitely helped that, and probably over the next few years it'll just continue to grow. But yeah, as you said, Westfield doesn't have anything like that. And as a business owner myself, looking at that, it's like, yeah, I mean, I would love to see more, people of all age groups coming into our gym, and like right now, I think our youngest member is 24, 25. Other than some of the kids of the members, but as developing that membership base and all that, it's like, yeah, we want to see some 20-year-olds coming in out of college, I don't. Is that even possible for Westfield? Do you think?
It is. It absolutely is possible, but we just got to think differently. Because like right now, if you brought a high density development to our city council, we're going to say no.
Yeah.
Because we have said flat out, or people within the council said, if it's not at least an acre lot in size, we're not interested. Well, if it's an acre in Hamilton County, it's going to be $250,000. So you just priced out a big chunk of society. And then again, younger folks aren't buying 1 acre lots. So I love those 1 acre lots. I've lived in those myself, but again, you need to have a little bit of everything. You need variety. I do believe, though, that most people in Westfield are tired of seeing the same cookie cutter neighborhood. And we were not great when we were first growing. We accepted a lot of the same thing. Still at a much higher price point than any other. The city I grew up in, $300,000 home would be at the very high end of the food chain. In Westfield, that's at the bottom.
Yeah.
So we have to keep it in perspective. But I would argue that it has been a lot of the same types of stuff.
I bought our first home here in Westfield, and I think we paid $206 for that thing. And I think that same home now is just shy of $300 if it's not over.
Oh, I bet.
It just blew me away when I looked at that last. And I mean, yeah, that does price out a lot of younger people.
And it's starting to price out older people too.
Oh, sure.
Because not only can they not afford to come here, but the taxes keep going up. Our assessed values in Westfield went up 23% this year. When you open up your tax bill here in Westfield, that's a painful experience. That's a good problem to have. Nobody wants to live in a community with declining home values, but it is a challenge, especially when the price point to get in is already really high.
Yeah, man, that's there's a lot more planning to that than
it's very
expect.
complex, and it's very it's not that simple, and that's why I've been saying on the campaign trail for months, experience really matters. You don't want to hand the keys over of this city with the challenges we have right now to somebody that hasn't developed a toolkit that can hit the ground running day one. One other thing we lack right now in Westfield, all we have is residential homes. 90% of our tax base comes from residential homes and apartments. We don't have a commercial tax base here. So when you think about
that's why the residents' taxes are going up.
It's part of it. A lot of it's the assessed value, but supply and demand certainly plays into that. But really it's more about, as you grow and as you sprawl as a city, every new residential development requires roads out to it, puts more people on your streets, beats up your roads more. What about the schools? It's more kids in the school district. Right. They have to adjust for the growth. So there's a lot of expenses that are happening because of our rapid growth here in the city, but we don't have a commercial tax base to offset that burden on the taxpayer. We as residents are footing that entire bill. And you look at Carmel, for example, they're 55% commercial or residential, 45 commercial.
Really?
And we're 90-10.
Well, and I think Carmel, at least the last time I looked, was one of the lowest tax-paying cities in the state.
It is. It absolutely is.
It's very incredible considering all the development there, all the roundabouts there, the art that goes on top of those,
The yard art?
Yeah, the yard art. Oh, my gosh. My wife's favorite one. We have it 126th and Gray. And I never noticed this. This is what I love about my wife. She notices all these little things. She stops and smells the roses. But there's a roundabout there that has a rock, sheet of paper, and scissors on top. Rock, paper, scissors.
I don't know if I've ever noticed that.
I
don't even pay attention. It's so bad.
Oh.
For everything that Carmel has done right,
yeah.
that has to be the worst thing they've ever done. And they've spent millions of dollars on that yard art.
Yeah.
That's what it is. It's what you see on a country road as you're driving out in the middle of nowhere. Somebody with that art in their yard.
Oh, it's hilarious.
Crazy.
Yeah. But rock, paper, scissors, I was like, okay, whoever thought of that one was good. But yeah, but they've done a good job of not putting that burden on the residents.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
It's gone to the commercial base.
And Carmel, they've done all these abatements to attract a lot of these businesses, which you have to do.
Explain what an abatement is exactly.
Well, an abatement is where you give them a tax break, and you can abate a lot of things. Here in Westfield, we abate property taxes. So let's say you have a business here and you're paying $1 million in taxes every year, and you're going to invest in a new project that's going to increase your taxes to $3 million, we would abate that gap or that delta.
Okay.
But there's a lot you can abate for capital investments. You can abate for salaries if it's a high enough paying type of job that you're bringing to the community. You can abate that. It's just a tax incentive for these businesses to come. And you got to do it. Cool. I mean, everybody complains about it, but we're in a global economy now. I mean, if they're looking at Westfield, they're looking all over the world. And I know here in Westfield, we think we're special, and we are. It's a great place to live.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of great places to live, and businesses at the end of the day are looking through a different lens than what we are as residents. So if you want them, you've got to do abatements. Now, Carmel's done a ton of abatements, much more aggressive than we have in Westfield. But a lot of those abatements are getting ready to roll off. And Carmel's already pretty flush with cash.
Yeah.
There's a short-term sacrifice for a long-term gain, and they're getting ready to reap the benefits of that.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. Now, my complaint with Carmel is they have just ran up debt. I mean, $125 million bonds for roundabouts.
Right.
I mean, that stuff. In my opinion, that's irresponsible.
Maybe I'm small-minded, but I don't really like to play with that. I mean, unless on real estate, maybe, but other than that, yeah.
Well, but not all debts create equal either.
Right,
I mean, we just came out of a period where money was basically free. Interest rates were so low; it was smart to take on debt. You'd rather be cash heavy, and take on a little bit of debt because of the interest rates. Now that's starting to change.
Yeah.
But the other piece to it too is some debt helps move the ball forward, and actually returns an investment to the city that other debt doesn't. So I'm all about doing public-private partnerships and other things where we're helping bring in a revenue source to our community where we might invest $1 into that project. We're going to get $3 back in return in tax revenue. Those are things that are strategic that you have to do.
Yeah.
But $10 million for yard art or $125 million for roundabouts. I mean, everybody loves roundabouts. I do too.
Yeah,
we're going to build them all.
Mm-hmm.
But does it have to be done overnight? And is that a good use of debt for a city? It's worked for Carmel. I mean, we can sit here and throw darts at them, but
they've done it. They have done a really good job with Carmel. I mean, that's where our residence is right now. We've lived in Indianapolis, then Westfield. Now we're in Carmel. Now we want to move back to Westfield. So
we'd love to have you.
One day.
Scott finds you a house.
Yeah, right. Well, that's
no
the hard part.
Right
and our interest rate's so stupid low on our house. It's like, man, I wonder if I can keep it as a rental. Yeah, that's what I got to figure out, But no, we eventually I think we'd love to have 5 or 10 acres